A mystery that refuses to be solved. Rasputin, the soul merchant, whose name is synonymous with the end of Tsarist Russia. Grigory Rasputin is one of the most famous people in Russian history. His piercing eyes, unsettling look, greasy hair, and bushy beard only add to the mystery around him. In the years preceding the Russian Revolution, the so-called Mad Monk aroused both fascination and outrage as a figure, and the century that has passed since the revolution hasn't done much to lessen interest in the Black Monk. Smash the like button for more mysteries from all around the world. Also subscribe and leave the notifications turned on for more history from this channel. Rasputin was a self-made saint whose fascination with occultism and mysticism led him, in the early 20th century, from the Siberian steppes to the imperial court in St. Petersburg. To assist in Alexei Romanov's recovery from his illness, the Romanovs hired him. Soon, Rasputin's influence extended beyond the heir to the throne's health to the entire government. As a result, he played a political game that would ultimately result in his demise and make him more enemies than friends. He died 2 years before his imperial sponsors did. It can be challenging to clearly differentiate fact from fiction when it comes to Rasputin because of his contentious life and enigmatic passing. There are still enough enticing hints to piece together the existence of a self-styled monk who was unashamed of his earthly gaze. How has all this got to do with Rasputin and his apparent healing abilities and all the mystery surrounding his name? Grigory Efimovich Rasputin's life and death are shrouded in myth, making him a larger-than-life figure in Russian history. Rasputin, a sexual deviant, mystic healer, political saboteur, and renegade monk, was reviled and revered during his lifetime and became a scapegoat for various dissident groups of the time. Friday marks the 100th anniversary of his infamous death on December 30, 1916. People believed this man could do strange things, so I'm going to show you 5 Rasputin myths. Myth 1. He possessed mystical abilities. Rasputin, who was born to peasants in a small village in western Siberia, became a Christian at a young age. Certain mystical abilities. Even when Rasputin was a child, there were rumors going around that he had left his family in search of religious devotion and piety as an Orthodox Christian, even though he was married and had several children. Fathering several children, Rasputin arrived in St. Petersburg, the seat of royal power, after years of wandering and religious teaching. Rasputin became acquainted with Tsar Nicholas and his wife, Tsarina Alexandra, through various connections. Desperate for a cure for their sick son's hemophilia, they summoned Rasputin one night. The bleeding seemed to stop for a while after his session with the young boy. Some historians, like Pierre Gilliard, think that Rasputin probably stopped the bleeding by refusing to give the man aspirin, which is known to thin the blood. This is more likely than any magical powers he may have had. That Tsarina was astounded and immediately hired Rasputin as a close advisor. Myth 2. He was a sexual deviant and the queen's lover. Rasputin's strange habits, like drinking a lot and going to brothels, were seen as going against his religious beliefs, so stories about his sexual exploits spread quickly when he was in the royal court. Some historians believe that Rasputin's sinful actions drew him closer to God because he may have belonged to the Klist religious sect, or at the very least, had its influence. Rasputin did perform in salons a lot, but there is no evidence that he was a sex-obsessed nut who slept with Russia's queen. His enemies have embellished his actions in this area as well as throughout his life, in an effort to gain attention for him following the 1917 February Revolution. Myth 3. He was Russia's secretive leader. Rumors that Rasputin was manipulating the royal couple grew as a result of his constant presence in the royal court. These rumors got worse as Alexandra became more and more dependent on Rasputin, and her hemophiliac son seemed to get better after being treated by him. The monks sometimes helped with medicine and gave military advice, but neither the Russian army nor Tsar Nicholas benefited from any of his ideas. In fact, after Tsar Nicholas took personal command of his armies on August 23, 1915, on the advice of Rasputin and Tsarina Alexandra, he was held responsible for Russia's losses on the battlefield. That Tsarina filled the leadership void created by the Tsar being away at war. The myth does resemble reality in this instance. Rasputin held a lot of influence even though that Tsarina was in charge. The mystic healer didn't waste any time selecting his own church leaders and other public figures. Myth number 4. He was unkillable. Rasputin's actions and sway came to represent all that was wrong with Russian politics and society at the time. Other attempts on his life had already been made before his final assassination. The monk was stabbed in the stomach in June 1914 by a beggar woman who claimed he had been seducing an innocent person. Even though Rasputin lost a lot of blood and was on the verge of passing away after the incident, he recovered fully. Shortly afterward, a group of nobles led by a man named Felix Yusupov plotted to finally get rid of the holy man. Yusupov invited Rasputin to dinner at his home on December 30, 1916. After a heavy meal, complete with wine and dessert, all allegedly laced with poison, the men watched as Rasputin showed no signs that the poison was having an effect on him. The men then shot Rasputin, who, according to legend, continued to draw breath despite the barrage of bullets and died only after being pushed into an ice-cold river to drown. While Yusupov and other nobles did plot Rasputin's death, autopsy reports show that no poison was found in Rasputin's system and that he died from a single bullet to the head. Myth number 5. He rose from the dead. The aftermath of Rasputin's death, like the story of his murder, has become mythologized over time. According to legend, after Rasputin's poisoned and shot body was thrown into the icy river, he was fished out by a group of bystanders who discovered he was still alive when they dragged his body to the river's edge. Truth be told, it took the police several days to recover Rasputin's body after it had been dumped into the Malaya Nevka River because the water had already frozen due to the extremely cold Russian winter. As a result of the February Revolution, Tsar Nicholas II abdicated the Russian throne on March 15, 1917. The final remnants of the Romanov dynasty were destroyed the following year by the Bolsheviks. But Rasputin myths persisted, and underneath those myths, there is some truth. Rasputin's influence may have contributed to the disdain for the royal family and all that it came to stand for, according to some historians. Rasputin's story demonstrates how mythology can develop a life of its own and elevate itself above reality. Thanks for watching. Don't go to bed scared, but smash the like button whilst you subscribe, leaving the notification button on.